Good to have you with us Tuesday, June 15th. For the White House, the hope this morning is that the third time's the charmer. After hinting that a Supreme Court nomination might go to Interior Secretary Bruce Babbitt and then Boston Federal Judge Stephen Breyer, the president had something of a surprise choice yesterday. Federal Appeals Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
And so far, most of the reaction is favorable. Now, if confirmed, Judge Ginsburg would take the seat of retiring Justice Byron White, and she would become the second woman on the high court. A one-time crusader for women's rights, she's been described as a centrist and a moderate jurist. In this half hour, we will hear the reaction from women's groups, and also we'll learn more about Judge Ginsburg from her old friend, our legal editor, Arthur Miller. Right now, our friend Spencer, who's got good weather, I think.
Well, I hope so, but right now we're going to talk about the season's first tropical storm, which isn't posing too much of a threat to anyone at the moment. It has formed in the Pacific Ocean. Its name is Adrian. And can Rocky be far behind? Charlie?
Named after our cameraman here, Adrian.
That's right.
Adrian Best,
Absolutely.
right. All right. Yep.
Also ahead, more on the political events surrounding the Ginsburg nomination from White House Chief of Staff Mac McLarty. Also, you may have noticed there was a flash of presidential temper yesterday, and we're going to be talking to the man to whom it was directed, ABC White House correspondent Britt Hume. But right now, Morton Dean has the news of the day. Mort?
Thank you, Charlie, and good morning, everyone. Ruth Bader Ginsburg goes to Capitol Hill today. The Federal Appeals Court judge will introduce herself to some of the senators who will vote on her nomination to the Supreme Court. She already knows many of them, and they have had praise for her selection. Some were even in the audience yesterday when President Clinton announced her nomination. ABC's Ann Compton has more.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg was introduced by President Clinton as a pioneer in women's rights cases, another Thurgood Marshall, the late justice who came from the civil rights movement. Judge Ginsburg agreed on why her confirmation would be a landmark addition of a second woman to the court.
Because it contributes to the end of the days when women, at least half the talent pool in our society, appear in high places only as one-at-a-time performers.
It was Judge Ginsburg's struggle for women and as a woman that so impressed President Clinton.
Throughout her life, she has repeatedly stood for the individual, the person less well off, the outsider in society.
The president was clearly moved when Ginsburg spoke lovingly of her ambitious daughter and her own mother who died at an early age. He recoiled when asked if his earlier focus on two other candidates created the impression of a certain zigzag quality in his decision-making.
I wonder, sir, if you could kind of walk us through it, perhaps disabuse us of any notion we might have along those lines. Thank you.
I have long since given up the thought that I could disabuse some of you of turning any substantive decision into anything but political process. How you could ask a question like that after the statement she just made is beyond me. Goodbye. Thank you.
Later, President Clinton insisted that Ruth Ginsburg had won the nomination because of the strength of her beliefs about the women's movement and her activity in it. But when you take all of the presidential appointments this year, from Zoe Baird to Lani Guinier, some senators are asking whether the process may not be leaving too many, in a senator's words, hanging in the wind. Mort?
And just a few moments ago, out on the White House lawn, you were talking to a couple of White House officials. Anything new as to why she was chosen over Judge Breyer, who was the leader for several days?
Well, I think perhaps in our reporting, the high-speed, very visible chases of both Interior Secretary Babbitt and Federal Judge Stephen Breyer last week, it did leave the impression that those were the only two in the running. Judge Ginsburg's name was around all of last week. But I think the White House staff is making it very clear that when President Clinton called Judge Ginsburg in on Sunday and met her and discovered that she had graduated from law school, a very prestigious law school, couldn't get a job in New York except as a legal secretary. A Supreme Court justice said to be Felix Frankfurter said he wasn't ready for a woman law clerk and turned her down, that she had met discrimination and spent the next 20 years trying to fight it. And President Clinton was so touched by her professional background that really clinched the deal.
Interesting. Thank you, Ann. Ann Compton at the White House. And we'll have more on the Ginsburg nomination coming up in a few minutes here on Good Morning America, including a talk with White House Chief of Staff Mac McLarty, also ABC's Britt Hume, who asked the question that upset the president yesterday. A change of story in Mogadishu. UN military officials in the Somali capital now admit that a helicopter attack yesterday on a warlord's rocket launcher may have accidentally killed a civilian and injured 12 others. That's a switch from yesterday when officials insisted that did not happen. As ABC's Jerry King reports, last night offered a break from what had been nightly UN attacks.
No bombs, just flares illuminating large sections of Mogadishu well after midnight. Why wasn't clear. Did the UN anticipate some sort of retaliation by the forces of General Adid, the man the UN blames for the recent killing of 23 of its Pakistani soldiers here? Or was it simply a psychological operation aimed at keeping the Somali warlord and his gunmen off balance? Adid himself condemned the US-led attacks, but he sounded like a man who had got a message from 3 nights of air raids.
I'm ready to any negotiation, but first there should be stop with the aggression, the bombing, the attacks.
Adid's supporters took to the streets in what they hoped would look like defiance in the face of the air power of UNISOM, the UN force in Somalia.
I hate Bill Clinton. I hate UNISOM too.
But there was not much in the way of defiance to be seen once darkness fell. The gunmen are staying off the streets, at least for now. But the air attacks can only be a short-term answer. Something more has to be done on a political level, long-term. Jerry King, ABC News, Mogadishu.
Pepsi has a problem. There are more reports of hypodermic syringes being found inside cans of Pepsi. The latest were in Diet Pepsi soft drinks, one can near Akron, Ohio, the other in St. Charles, Missouri. The reports of syringes in Pepsi cans began last week, 2 in Washington State and 2 in Louisiana. An extraordinary operation, and the patient is in critical but stable condition. The patient is Pennsylvania's Governor Robert Casey. Yesterday, he received a transplanted heart and liver. His doctors say the 61-year-old Casey has a pretty good chance of normal life expectancy. A U.S. senator from Pennsylvania also went an operation yesterday. 63-year-old Arlen Specter is said to be doing well after having a brain tumor removed. It appears to have been benign, but further tests are being conducted. And that's the news on the hour. And back to Joan and Spencer.
All right, and we'll check with Adrian over here with Spencer, because Adrian isn't going to ruin our sin what she aspires to be when she spoke so movingly about her late mother.
I pray that I may be all that she would have been had she lived in an age when women could aspire and achieve, and daughters are cherished as much as sons.
Joining us now from WCVB in Boston with some special insight to Judge Ginsburg is our legal editor, Arthur Miller. Arthur has known Judge Ginsburg for 37 years, served with her on the Law Review Board at Harvard, later taught law to one of her children. Also with us from Washington is Judith Lichtman, president of the Women's Legal Defense Fund, who has worked closely with Judge Ginsburg on legal issues affecting women. We welcome both of you. Arthur, you can give us a special sense of this. You've known her for a long time. What are some of the experiences that have brought this woman to this point?
She was a woman in the law profession before the law profession was ready for women. I remember 30-odd years ago, Joan, I was a young associate at a big Wall Street firm. Ruth was clerking for a federal judge. And I went to the senior partner in the firm, and I said, I know this wonderful young lawyer who's coming off a clerkship. We should hire her. And as soon as I said her, the partner said, we don't hire women. That firm today is fully integrated in every sense. So in a way, Ruth's life shows how far we've come in the 30 years since she graduated law school.
You think maybe that sparked her intense interest in women's rights?
I have absolutely no doubt about that, and she's been rock solid on the subject all that time.
We hear words like centrist, moderate, consensus builder. How will she fit into this court? How will she affect the makeup of this court?
I think she will do what Judge Breyer would have done, and that is work fairly closely with justices like Souter and Kennedy and O'Connor to form a block of four. I don't mean a block vote, but a group of like-minded justices who will really be the center of that court and the core of that court. She has great interpersonal skills. She's extremely gentle, patient, loves people, and she should work well with those three and others.
Well, Judith, you worked closely with Judge Ginsburg when she served as counsel to the ACLU's Women's Rights Project. Yesterday, we heard the president mention the several different cases that she had worked on and fought for women's rights. Can you tell us about a few of those cases?
Well, I think the most important thing about her work in the 70s is that she really changed the legal landscape for women in this country. I don't think that young women realize that before 1970, in the cases that Judge Ginsburg began to bring, women had virtually no constitutional and legal protections. It was her cases that said ultimately legal theories that she crafted, that women could serve on juries, that survivor benefits were due the survivors of women as well as men, that women in the military were entitled to the same benefits that men in the military deserved, really changed the entire constitutional and legal framework under which women could operate in this country.
Absolutely. The only negative we've heard is that it revolves around a speech that she gave, actually, about Roe versus Wade. Can you talk to us about her views of women's rights to abortion?
Well, as I read that speech, actually, there isn't all that much new in that speech. For a very long time, Judge Ginsburg had been critical about the legal underpinnings or the constitutional underpinnings for the Roe v. Wade decision, all the time very clear about the fact that she thought the Constitution protected a woman's right to choose. And there's nothing, I don't believe, in that speech that backs away from her belief that the right to choose ought to be protected by the Constitution.
Yeah.
Her question really is, where does that constitutional protection fall? And she says in her writing she would prefer to see it in the Equal Protection Clause than the Privacy Clause. But the underlining fundamental right she is clear about.
Yeah, she just questioned the process to which we got to the conclusion, not the conclusion itself. Thank you very much for joining us. Arthur, thanks. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about what politics went into the nomination of Judge Ginsburg and what about President Clinton and the press. We'll be back.
My son Justin gets embarrassed, but I hug him anyway.
Every morning before work.
Let me talk, Mac, about both person and process. The president met Judge Ginsburg on Sunday. Was he taken with her personality or with the specifics of her legal philosophy?
Well, I think both, Charlie. He had actually met Judge Ginsburg in Little Rock at a seminar there several years ago when he was governor, and he was quite impressed with her commentary on that occasion. But as he drew near a decision with a number of distinguished Americans that were well qualified to serve on the court, he was particularly taken by, one, her ability to forge a consensus and her legal writings, but also her understanding of how profoundly court decisions affect Americans.
Did they talk specifics? Is the president, for instance, assured that she is pro-choice? Some question it.
Well, I don't know about the specifics in that regard. I know the president, of course, is a constitutional law professor, so I'm sure a number of the items that were discussed had to do with legal writings, and of course, Judge Ginsburg's position on that particular issue is well known.
Was the president concerned about the confirmation process? Did he want a safe choice? Did he want someone that from a political process he was sure would get through, given the fact that there are other priorities on the Hill right now?
Well, Charlie, I think that's an element, but I think the president has repeatedly said that he understands the significance of this particular decision. In fact, as you know, it's the first time a Democratic president has chosen a Supreme Court justice or nominated a Supreme Court justice in quite a while. He underscored also the basic thoughts he had of a person with a big heart that understood how decisions affected Americans and also keen intellect, and I think Judge Ginsburg's yesterday in her commentary displayed both of those qualities.
Late last week, White House sources were pointing very specifically to Judge Stephen Breyer from Boston. Was his failure to pay taxes on household help part of the reason he was not chosen?
No, I really don't think so, Charlie. This was a positive decision. There were a number of Americans who, persons of great distinction, who would have made and would make excellent choices for the court. So this is a positive decision for Judge Ginsburg, and I think the president underscored that yesterday in his comments.
But, Mac McClarty, the people in the White House were pointing to two people, Judge Breyer or the Secretary Babbitt. Judge Ginsburg was not being mentioned, and it was only after that story about taxes on household help came out that Judge Breyer seemed to go away as the choice. And you can assure me that that had no part of it? He didn't, the president didn't meet with Judge Ginsburg until after that story had come out.
Well, Charlie, again, this has been a very deliberative process. The president wanted a number of choices. He had a wide range of people from all walks of life. He had to weigh various factors in his mind, including Secretary Babbitt's distinguished service as Secretary of the Interior. And I think the meeting with Judge Ginsburg went quite well, and he made the choice he thought was the right one in this situation, and I think that will prove to be correct as Judge Ginsburg moves toward the confirmation process.
The White House is sensitive to those questions about the process by which Judge Ginsburg was chosen. As you saw on the news a few moments ago, the president seemed angry when questioned about the process by ABC's Britt Hume, who is joining us this morning from our Washington bureau. Britt, it was, not to disparage the question, but it was an obvious question that you asked the president. Any sense why he bristled so when you asked him about what seemed to be a zigzag process that led to Judge Ginsburg?
Well, a couple of things, Charlie. He did seem quite moved by the statement that Judge Ginsburg had made, and especially by the end of it when she spoke of her mother in a way that actually brought the president to tears. There was a tear you could see trickle down his face as her remarks were ending, and he stepped over to thank her for them. And the president's an emotional man, and I think also the fact that in the question, at the beginning of the question, I mentioned the withdrawal of the Guinier nomination. That's the nomination of Lanny Guinier to be the Deputy Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, who was an old and close personal friend of his whose name he had to withdraw and felt, and I'm told by White House aides, continues to feel quite badly about. And I think the combination of those two things may have touched a chord in the president and may have seemed to him inappropriate to what for many people present was a very emotional moment.
Was there, though, disarray in the process? It was the White House, as I mentioned to Mac McClarty, pointing to Judge Breyer. Then the story came out about his failing to pay Social Security for household help. Then the president met with Judge Ginsburg, and she was chosen.
Well, Charlie, I think it had been a very public process. I mean, late in the process, at least, when the president began to narrow the choices down and focus first on Interior Secretary Babbitt, then on Judge Breyer, and then finally, and it seemed late, on Judge Ginsburg. We all knew about it. It was all over the papers, the White House aides who were talking about it, some even on the record were making no bones about what they said the situation was. So as each step moved from one to another, it was a very public process, and thereby exposing each of these candidates along the way to considerable scrutiny and perhaps some embarrassment. It was not really a pretty sight, was it?
All right, Britt Hume, thank you very much. Appreciate you being with us. Coming up now on 23 Minutes After the Hour, and Good Morning America will continue after your local news. Stay with us.
For as long as anyone can remember, the Roadmaster name has graced only automobiles of great strength and security. Buick Roadmaster for 1993 is no exception. Consider, for example, the protection of Roadmaster's full perimeter frame, its V8 power, anti-lock brakes, and driver airbag. Buick Roadmaster, perhaps the world's best value in a traditional luxury car.
Everywhere you look at JCPenney,
you'll see signs of change.
Stop signs,
traffic signs,
and signs of construction.
JCPenney. And while our changes are a welcome sign,
a sign that's always stood for great values is
JCPenney.
Notice anything unusual about Kellogg's Frosted Bran? Frosted Bran. Contradiction in terms? You see, the fun side of you still wants a sports car. That's the tasty Frosted side. But the sensible side of you is ready for the big wagon. That's the crunchy Bran side. Kellogg's Frosted Bran cereal gives you the best of both. Healthy flakes of bran with a delicious frosting. It's like getting the wagon and keeping the sports car. Frosted keeps you happy, Bran helps keep you healthy. Kellogg's Frosted Bran.
Citibank has really given us a new sense of self because we have our own identities.
I have a Citibank Visa card, and it does have my photo on it, so I had one less worry.
And not only that, but you can pick what you like, so it doesn't look like a DMV photo.
Peace of mind, security.
Helps with identification.
I don't know why American Express or the other credit cards aren't doing the same thing. We need a photo card so family members can tell us apart.
Just a few of the many people who rely on the security of not just Visa, Citibank Visa.
You're watching KATU Channel 2 Portland. Now, in the spirit of the Northwest, this is Channel 2 News, brought to you by NutraSweet Spoonful.
Good morning to you on this Tuesday, June 15th. I'm Dan Christopher. Well, we begin this update of news with a look at the morning commute. KEX's Dennis Norden with the very latest. Good morning, Dennis.
Well, good morning, Dan. Inbound on McLaughlin, some slow traffic from about the ODOT offices down to Tacoma Street. Looks much better this morning getting down onto Swan Island ongoing. It's up to 2 lanes and no slowing for folks getting through there. But northbound Interstate 5, fairly heavy Capitol Highway to Terwilliger. Dennis Norden, Airwatch Traffic.
Not too bad on the outside. Thank you, Dennis. Well, the DA is still uncertain whether he is going to press any charges against the Southeast Portland antique dealer who shot and killed a robbery suspect. 29-year-old William Wood of Portland was the fatality victim. He wore a ski mask and carried a semi-automatic pistol when he entered the Hidden Treasures antique store on Foster Road about 2 o'clock yesterday. The owner, 37-year-old Lawrence Freeman, resisted the alleged robbery attempt after struggling with Wood and taking away...
Absolutely sure a part of your checkup, especially those tests that can reduce your risk of some cancers.
I think it's important to have pap smears, breast exams.
Try to get a physical at least once a year. We're so more aware of and conscious of breast cancer and uterine cancer that I like to be checked up more frequently.
More than 70% of all adult women will see only one physician this year.
I tend to go at least once a year, just to a regular gynecologist.
Hi, Candy. I'm Pat Sullivan. I'm Dr. Raven's nurse today.
And seeing just a gynecologist is fine, so long as all of your health is being followed when you have that annual physical. And it's also important your doctor knows everything that's going on in your life that might have an impact on your health.
How have you been? Thank you. Fine. Pretty good.
Dr. Jill Mora-Rabin heads the urogynecology division of the Long Island Jewish Medical Center. At her office, patients in for their annual GYN visit are given complete physicals. That is, with a pap test, breast, rectal, and full pelvic exams.
Raise your soft palate for me. Say, good.
Vital signs like blood pressure are checked, along with heart, lungs, and thyroid. Urine samples are taken, and blood is drawn to check for a whole variety of things, including cholesterol levels.
The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists recommend an annual pap test for all women who are sexually active or all women over the age of 18. It's very important because pre-malignant and malignant conditions, as well as infections, can develop quite rapidly.
And nothing on the left. That's excellent, Jen.
And in reality, along with all the standard items, your physical should be tailored to fit your age, your risk factors, and your family history.
Your arms down.
Overall, though, it's recommended women 18 to 39 and all of those who are sexually active, regardless of age, have a yearly pap test, pelvic exam, and STD screening. A cholesterol check every 5 years is a good idea, too. And at age 35, a baseline mammogram. Now, beginning at age 40, a rectal exam is now necessary, and you need a mammogram every 1 to 2 years, then every year beginning at age 50. And after 50, a sigmoidoscopy to look for early colon cancer and other problems should be done every 3 to 5 years.
Your belly's not tender. If we pick up things in their earliest stages, be it an infection, pre-malignant condition of the cervix, dysplasia of the cervix, and early ovarian cancer, and early breast cancer, we have our best shot at cure if we pick it up early. Another year, exam over.
Thank God.
Okay, now it's depending on your family history, the timetable for when you actually start and how often you have to have a certain test might change. In other words, if your mom, for instance, has breast cancer, then you may need to have your mammograms earlier, and you may need to have them more often as well.
So is the bottom line, it really doesn't matter much who does these tests as long as they're qualified and as long as you ask the gynecologist, if that's the doctor you see once a year, I want a pap smear, I want the rectal exam, I want the mammogram?
That is exactly the ticket. You have to make sure that you're getting the entire package, you're getting everything you need to have done. Now, some women feel really comfortable with just a GYN. That's fine. A family doc could do just as good a job. The internist can do just as good a job. The key thing is establish a relationship with them and make sure you're getting everything done, that nothing's falling between the cracks.
Why aren't those tests getting done? Is it the doctor's fault or the patient's fault for not asking for them?
I think it's a little of both. I mean, some doctors are a little reticent to say, okay, I need you to go get a mammogram because they know that they're expensive. A lot of patients, or some women anyway, say, okay, I had a mammogram. It's done. That box is checked off. When in reality, they have to know that you get a mammogram and then it's an ongoing process. You need to keep checking for these diseases. They don't go away mystically just because you've had the test.
All right, thanks a lot. Doctor?
Sure.
We'll see you tomorrow. Harry?
23 minutes before the hour, next on CBS This Morning, the little steps you take to keep your house safe when you're on vacation.
Having a real estate license doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to sell real estate. You have to understand people.
There isn't anything any school could teach you to make you care about people. That's got to come from the heart.
Century 21, rated most knowledgeable in real estate.
This year, there are Father's Day gifts in bad taste and good taste. Bad taste and good taste. Bad, good. And a Baskin-Robbins ice cream cake that's in good taste for Dad is in good taste for everyone.
Great price on this shop vac vac.
How many tacks could a shop vac vac if a shop vac could vac tacks?
Well, it's got a 16-gallon capacity, and it converts to a blower.
You're no fun.
I'm getting one of these AT&T cordless phones.
2-channel, great price.
I mean, the phone rings, the baby's in the other room. Sometimes I feel like I'm on a leash.
Down, girl. Get the phone. Kmart's prices are so low.
I think we're about to have a significant retail experience.
I can't believe how you take these birthday parties in stride.
Oh, you must be kidding. I find them totally nerve-wracking.
Well, you'd never know it to look at you. What have you got, some kind of miracle antiperspirant or something?
Well, actually, I use Suave.
Suave? Works that well?
I think so.
Meanwhile, I'm spending more money.
Of course you are.
How do you find out about this stuff? Or look, can I be you when I grow up?
I don't think so.
Suave antiperspirant. When Suave works this well, why spend more?
If your allergy or sinus symptoms make your workday miserable, I've got news. Introducing new Contact Day and Night Allergy Sinus Formula. On this page, the right medicine for daytime, a non-drowsy formula to relieve congestion and sinus pain so you can work. On this page, a nighttime formula to relieve your allergy and sinus symptoms so you're rested for a new day's work. New Contact Day and Night Allergy Sinus. The right medicine at the right time.
This portion of CBS This Morning is sponsored by MCI, the long-distance phone company that brings you friends and family.
21 minutes before the hour, you may be going on vacation this summer, but the average crook is not. July and August are the 2 worst months for home burglaries, but we have some help to keep you safe. Helen Maxwell is the author of Home Safe Home and the subject of an interview in the current Family Circle magazine. And she joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's go right down to the bottom of the list here and tell us from the bottom up the things we need to do to get our house ready for when we go on vacation and the burglars are out scouting around to look for places to break into. What do we need to do?
Okay, number one, don't depend entirely on hardware. That's a simple solution, but you can't buy security merely with money. I advise people to take walks in their neighborhood and start getting ready to secure your home weeks before you go on vacation. Take walks 2 blocks in every direction.
Right.
If it's a dangerous neighborhood, don't go alone. But it's to get your bearings about what's going on out there, who's driving through, who lives there, who moved away, who looks suspicious, and then you can judge a little better how your home fits in with the rest of the homes in that neighborhood.
Right.
And after you see how safe or unsafe your home appears through the eyes supposedly of the enemy.
So in other words, your advice is to go walk around and then look at yours versus the other ones to see if yours looks vulnerable versus the other one.
Yes, but it's also to bond a little bit with the neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, it's good to know. People shouldn't wait until they go on vacation to do these things, actually. Now, a burglar's going to drive through your neighborhood, but a burglar will get out on foot to take a closer look.
Sure.
And there's a very different perspective between driving through a neighborhood and walking through a neighborhood.
So this is something, if you're going to go on vacation in August, you ought to be trying to start this tonight.
That's